leadership, empowerment, mental health, positive psychology. That would pretty much sum up my whole story. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm gonna leave now. But no. So I was saying, I'm Alexandra. I'm a business coach, well, a business lawyer and a legal coach. And what is exactly that? That means that I am a lawyer with a broader approach and perspective, and I help my clients from different point of views depending on the situation. And I acquire knowledge from Pyrrhian philosophies and ancestral also philosophies, from coaching, from like energy healing, other alternative therapies that I've been studying. But I want to talk about just a little briefly, how did I get here? Because I think it will help you to better understand what I propose. So as I was saying, I was a business lawyer. I was working like in the biggest law firms from Europe, continental Europe at least, for more than a decade. And at some point, I found myself that I was disconnected. That was the word that better defined me. I was disconnected from my emotions because I had numbed them, disconnected from my body because I would ignore all the stress signals, all the illness signals that it would send to me. Disconnected also from my desires because I would only think about work. And I was feeling like a total machine because I was working 15, 16 hours, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. I gradually got there, so it was not very perceivable to me. But at some point, a reflection process started inside of me. And why was that? Because even if I had put all the hard work, sometimes my clients would get a judgment, but it would be after several years, and they weren't happy even if it was a win. So I couldn't understand that, and that made me to question myself, you know? And of course, it's disempowering because you did all the hard work, but then the client doesn't really appreciate it. So there's also a misunderstanding in communication, and things got really messy. At some point, I heard my own voice, and it was just like from the outside. This is not the life that you want. So with that, I started a spiritual journey, an inner journey that led me to study different therapies, as I was saying. And I was just about to become a psychotherapist. I found out that I really liked helping people solve their problems, but from a deeper level. So I was very keen to opening my practice of psychotherapy. But then again, that voice appeared, you know? I sometimes say that maybe it was the voice from my soul, if you guys believe in that. And that voice was telling me, hey, but you really like being a lawyer. You really like what you are doing. You are passionate about it. Why would you leave it if you like it, if it was your dream job? So then I thought maybe I could incorporate all the teachings that I learned along these years into the legal practice. But of course, I couldn't do that in a big office with a big structure, with a lot of rules and norms that you have to follow. So I decided to quit, and I started my job as a freelancer. And pretty soon, when I took this leap of faith, I found out there was so many more lawyers doing exactly this. So many around the world. There's a movement right now. And this movement is also happening in other professions, not just in the legal world. It's a movement of conscience all around the world, and some of the speakers will also be talking about this. But why am I talking about this here? After seeing there was a lot of people doing the same, we thought that it would be better and easier to spread the word amongst other lawyers that would maybe face a difficult situation as mine, and to show them that there was a different possibility to practice. So we started an association that's called Lawyers and Consciousness, and we are working on two main pillars. First one is setting up activities for the well-being and self-knowledge of the lawyers. And this will help them to find inner peace. And inner peace is our hope that would provide better solution for their clients. And also another pillar is the outer peace. And that comes with promoting very new legal practices. Well, not so new because they have like 20, 30 years around the globe, but not many people have heard about it, so not many people use them. But they are very helpful to provide a more adequate solution for some cases, especially in my line of work, which is business, or also like for family law, very helpful. And these solutions well, they are faster in time. They require a challenge also for the client because they have to face what they don't want to face, that maybe they have a different perspective around conflict and they haven't really thought about it. So, what we aim with this association is to change the perception that lawyers have around their work, that clients have around conflict. And we hope that with this, we can get to a world that is peaceful and that people could really use conflict as opportunities to grow. How can we do this? So as I was saying, a big part of it is to change the perception about how clients think about lawyers, how clients think about conflicts, how we actually think about the law, if we have actually ever thought about the law. And to look further into this, I would pose you a question. Have you ever dealt with a lawyer or ever had a legal conflict? Think about it. And if somebody wants to answer, please feel free. What image popped inside your mind? Was it like a Suits Harvey Specter kind of image? Or was it maybe a more romantic one, like Ally McBeal? I would want you to think about that and your experience. Were you happy with the result? How were you being treated? Did you found that it really helped you, or maybe not? Well, as I was saying, lawyers are starting to acknowledge their effect on their clients and are starting to get all this, what we would call soft skills, but this is like also a very traditional concept right now. Because if we are talking about skills, we are really far away in humanizing legal practice. But also, as I was saying, what happens in courts? Like, I live in Spain, so I can pretty much tell you that after COVID, there's a lot of delay in proceedings. That maybe if a client doesn't reach an agreement with another party, so that is, if they don't want to communicate and maybe collaborate into getting a new solution, they may be facing 5 to 7 years until they have a definitive judgment from the court. So if you have a business, are you willing to wait this kind of time for a judge to give you an answer? We should think about that. Also, as I was saying, we have to reflect on the rule of law, you know? And that particular question was very impactful for me because studying law, I assumed that law is made to be applied, of course. And when you don't have an agreement, if the client wants to sue, then you go to sue and you ask for a judge to apply the law. But then again, thinking about the process of law, and maybe not many people know this, but laws are very general rules that are made to fit into very wide cases. And then when we have a particular conflict or case, we are struggling to fit that particularity into a general rule of law. So, of course, we have to have laws, especially related to criminal proceedings and some other that may be very, very important. But when it comes to disagreement with two people or two businesses, is this really necessary? Because we have our will and we should be able to communicate better in order to see if there's a better solution than going to court at, as a first solution. So that is it regarding the law. But what about what's happening right now all around the world? And I was saying, I would like to talk to you about just a few methods, because I think it's very important for us to know that they are there. And because I think it's very innovative solutions that are brought here today. And they cannot only be applied to legal conflicts, but also between disagreements. Why I think this is important? Because I'm not sure about the other countries. I've seen that this is a very international audience. But here in Spain, 89% of businesses are made of families, are family business. And what does that mean? That means that when they face a disagreement, if they don't know how to solve it, they will end up in court. And after 5 years of waiting for that judgment and maybe not speaking to each other, how do you think their relationship would be? Do you think the conflict is solved with a judgment by the judge? So brothers or sisters or a couple will stop talking to each other just because of this. Are we sure there's no better solution? So one really, some would say unorthodox solution, it's called the systemic law. And the systemic law is something that got invented by a judge in Brazil. And it consists in incorporating the therapy of family constellation to legal conflicts. I don't know if you heard about family constellations. You did? Are you a constellator? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So for those who don't know, family constellations is a therapy invented by Bert Hellinger that really is based on we as humans functioning into systems. So we can have different systems like work system, like the couple, like the family. And it states that if we create a disbalance in this system, this will affect, of course, the other members, even generations ahead and before. So it's a very nice therapy. I would really recommend you to try if you want, but especially I would recommend if you have a legal conflict to do this, because in Brazil and in Argentina, it's working so well that has been incorporated into court laws, and they have like constellation offices inside of courts, and they do this before handling the conflict legally, and it's very helpful, very fast, and with very good results. Another thing, it would be conscious contracts. That's a concept that was invented by two Americans, Linda Alvarez and Kim Wright, and these propose a new way of thinking about contracts. Because I, as a lawyer, have seen that when drafting a contract, maybe like the client is not so aware of this. But when we draft a contract, we mainly focus on what could go wrong. What are your obligations? What are my obligations? And what are we going to do if you don't do this or if I don't do that? And the result usually is we will go to the Barcelona courts, or if we have investigated a bit more, we will go to mediation. But then again, mediation here in Spain, at least, hasn't had so much success. So now it's starting to pop up also. So this is a very interesting concept because it focuses on how do we want to create the relationship that the contract will then be drafted on. How do we want our company to be built? What's my interest? What's your interest? What concerns me? What do I want to do in 5 years? What are we going to do if I need to take a break? And things like that that usually are the conflicts that arises, but we didn't include them in the contract. So are we really waiting from somebody from the outside, like a judge, to tell us how to deal with these very personal things? So yes, I really recommend also conscious contracts, and also, not to make it very, very long, there's also a method called collaborative law. And this would be the same thing as conscious contract, but after the conflict pops up. And it's a very interesting point of view of solving conflicts, because it's based as every party involved in the conflict would be working as a team. So you have one party with their lawyer, which is a collaborative lawyer, the other party with their lawyer, and then you can have like specialists. There could be mediators, or there could be collaborative architects if the conflict is about a real estate problem maybe, or if you can even have constellator inside a team. So we all know that diversity brings creative solutions. So if we know that, why don't we work together towards obtaining a solution that would maybe fit us both? Why am I saying that? And I will put you a very simple example. It's the example of the orange. Some of you may have heard of it. My client wants an orange, your client wants an orange. And if we go to a judge, maybe he'll have the orange and I'll have the orange, if not. Or maybe we each have half and half. But if we stop for a bit, yeah, faster? Okay. If we stop for a bit and we ask for, if one needed the orange pulp to make a juice and the other one needed the orange peel to make a cake, then they could both have the orange. So this is what I'm proposing. And the last part, maybe the most important one, is in all this, how do we as humans perceive conflict? Have we thought about this? I know that it's very clear that we usually use, a challenge is an opportunity. But when we are dealing with legal conflicts or with conflicts that really upset us, we fail to see that. And why is that? Because since we were little, maybe we didn't have a role model to show us how conflict has to be handled. So when a conflict arises, we usually get in defense mode. Our body and our mind get blocked, and we are very aggressive and only can perceive our solution. But if there's a 6 in front of me drawn on the ground, and maybe Josie sees a 9, which one of us is right? So conflict really is the representation of reality that's neutral, and only the difference of opinion makes the division. So if we were able to talk about it, well, we would definitely maybe get to some more creative solutions. But how can we do that? And this is where I wanted to talk about briefly again, spiritual law. 2 minutes, 1. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was talking faster when I really tried this on. So yeah, now I'm talking not so fast. But sorry for that. For me, public speaking is a challenge. So thank you for your patience. And I got very, very nervous. But it's a challenge, so I'm going to see it as an opportunity. Okay, so briefly, what the law does tell us about conflict, really nothing. What the natural law tells about conflict. If we listen to the natural principles, there's a law of correspondence. And if I attracted a conflict in my life, it means that I have a conflict inside of me. And if I have a conflict inside of me, it will manifest in the outside, but what can I do? So I would invite you to think about maybe one moment that you had a really hard discussion, or if you had a legal conflict, and to remember what bothered you from that person, how it made you feel. And if you can relate to that, then think, where in my life am I doing this? In which area? Am I doing this even if in a smaller scale, maybe? Maybe not to others, but maybe to myself? And I believe that taking this kind of reflection will definitely help us to attract better situation and, of course, learn from it. As Gandhi said, and with this I finish, be the change you want to see. So if you want a more peaceful world, you have to have peace within. Thank you.